Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the episode of the NFL Universe. Just me today, with a little bit of a hiatus because we were both on break. Me and Max. Max should be back next week. We've been struggling to find time to record together. So I'm going to take this one just because the playoffs are starting and we really need to cover things. So without further ado, I'm going to cover a little bit of the news that happened this week. Quick review on last week's games, and then jump right into the playoff predictions. So that's what we're all looking forward to. So I'm going to start probably, I guess, with the news for this week. Brian Flores went ahead and was fired, as well as a multitude of other coaches around the league. More importantly, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I know Joe Judge was fired yesterday, as well as Dave Gettleman retired. Obviously, he was on the chopping block, and they said either you're retiring or firing you. He went ahead and retired. What that means for the New York Giants in particular. Joe Judge wasn't great. I didn't think he was the worst coach they've had in the past couple of years. I think that was easily held by Ben McAdoo, hated by the locker room. Joe Judge was liked by the locker room, but I think his coaching style is a little rough for the NFL. B, he didn't really have the talent, and that's a big portion on Dave Gettleman. Glad Dave Gettleman's gone. I think Dave Gettleman's fantastic at drafting running backs and some skilled players, as we see in Christian McCaffrey when he's with the Panthers, Saquon Barkley with the Giants. However, building an offensive line and building a championship-winning team, I don't really think is in his forte, especially at this point in his career. Probably the end of him as a GM. Maybe he'll go into player personnel. Maybe he'll find another job elsewhere. But his time as a GM in the NFL is pretty much over. Brian Flores was fired by the Dolphins. I think he's a pretty good coach. I think it's kind of a scapegoat move because that Dolphins GM, rather than face the consequences of the fact that he didn't bring in enough talent, goes ahead and fires Brian Flores, where I think I think Brian Flores is a good coach. I think he put together some good seasons. And I think, looking at the Giants position, if he applied to be the Giants head coach and they went ahead and interviewed him, I wouldn't be too upset with that. And going off of that, Mike Zimmer was also fired, and Matt Nagy. Mike Zimmer's been Vikings head coach for a while now. I think it was his bad time to go. Has not really put a championship team together. Partially his fault as a coach. And then Mike Nagy had a pretty abysmal record ever since post his first year, or he went 12-5, and that team was mostly led by their defense, who was coordinated by Vic Fangio at that point. So he was probably the reason for the success of that defense, and it wasn't Nagy. And it goes to show you that now Nagy's out. Maybe the Bears can go ahead and find somebody that's better. I mean, given he had Mitch Trubisky, Andy Dalton, and a young Justin Fields in his time as coach, but not finding any success, along with people like Joe Judge. You don't find any success or make any strides forward, teams are not going to keep you. The NFL's a business, and they're looking to win. With that being said, that pretty much wraps up the head coach firings from this week. Going into the games, Chiefs beat the Broncos 28-24. Cowboys destroyed the Eagles 51-26, which is going to be important looking at the playoffs. Cowboys are coming into this playoffs really hot. Washington beat the Giants. Bengals lost to the Browns. Browns beat 21-16, which I think is kind of an interesting game. The Browns have been really inconsistent this year. And it's one of the games where they beat a really good Bengals team, who I think is going to perform pretty well in the playoffs. Steelers edged out the Ravens. The Ravens go ahead and miss the playoffs as a result. Packers had everybody lost to the Lions. The Colts blew the game to the Jaguars. This game is interesting. I'm going to talk about this one a little bit. It's just interesting to see this because the Colts go ahead and get Carson Wentz, hoping that he's going to bring them to the next level that Phillip Rivers couldn't. And it kind of did the opposite. They gave up a first overall draft pick and a good amount of talent in exchange for Wentz. And what happens with the Eagles? They make the playoffs with Hurts. What happens to the Colts? They don't make the playoffs. So without a doubt, I think it's safe to say that the Colts went ahead and lost his trade. Regardless of what happens, Jalen Hurts is going to be a really good quarterback. And I don't know how much Carson Wentz has left in the tank. I don't really know if he can go into the season next year and just really make a huge difference that he didn't already, wouldn't have already made at this point in his career. Going from there, Bears, Vikings 131-17. Titans beat the Texans 28-25. They secured the first seed in the AFC. The Seahawks beat the Cardinals 38-30, which is going to be important. It's the playoff predictions. Bills beat the Jets 27-10. Buccaneers beat the Panthers 41-17. Dolphins edged out the Patriots 33-24. Another important factor here. 49ers beat the Rams 27-24. And Raiders beat the Chargers 35-32 in an overtime thriller, which is really interesting. if you guys saw that game. If the teams would have tied, which was crazy that the Chargers even came back into the game to tie it. They come back into the game and tie it. They go into overtime. Raiders have the ball with about a minute or two left. They have the opportunity to kneel the ball out, get a tie, get them both into the playoffs, eliminate the Steelers. Chargers call a timeout. The Raiders go, a little more time. We're going to run the ball a little bit, see what happens. Raiders run the ball. They get in a field goal position. They kick the field goal. They win. So the Chargers kind of shot themselves in the foot and lost their playoff spot there. However, from the Chargers, again, I'm not too upset. They're making strides forward. Almost a playoff team this year. Justin Herbert was phenomenal this year, right? We're talking top 5 in MVP voting likely. Seeing that type of Mahomes-esque jump where, it's Justin Herbert, Mahomes, younger quarterbacks in the league. These guys are going to dominate for years. Justin Herbert is definitely one of those guys. And again, with Justin Herbert at the helm, the Chargers from this point on to the far future, until Justin Herbert's no longer quarterback in the NFL, the Chargers have a chance to not only make the playoffs, but be Super Bowl contenders. So again, Chargers, I'm not too upset. Keep building that roster. You're going to be in a really good spot. And the Raiders, obviously, they make the playoffs. So going into that, I mean, that pretty much wraps up the past couple of weeks. Nothing crazy has really happened in the past couple of weeks that really changes everything, except that probably that one game. Fantastic game to watch. But, I'm going to jump right into what we all came here for, and that is the playoff predictions. So going into this wild card round, obviously, Titans, Packers both have a bye. So going into our first game of the week, it's going to be on Saturday at 4:30. We have the Raiders and the Bengals. I just want to make sure I'm going to go through the betting odds on these teams right now because that's a big focus here. So right now, the Bengals, according to FanDuel, are a favorite at -225, and I totally agree with that. I don't see the Raiders being able to compete in this game at all. They're not really a playoff team. They've had a mess and a mix of head coaches from the beginning of the season. Beginning of the season, with everything happening, Henry Ruggs, Jacques Gruden, crazy stuff. Raiders and the Steelers, fun fact, are the only teams with negative point deficits going into the playoffs, meaning that they didn't score as many points as were scored on them. I mean, they're pretty lucky to be in the playoffs. If this wasn't a 14-team playoff and it was a 12-team playoff that we've had in the past, and those probably the Raiders and the Steelers wouldn't have made the playoffs. So that being said, Bengals are slightly better on the road, but they're home at this game. I'm taking the Bengals, no doubt about it. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase have been a fantastic fiery duo lately. And I just don't see the Raiders being able to overcome that. This is going to be a pretty solid game. I'm expecting possible 10-point win for the Bengals here. And, looking at that spread, which current spread right now is 5.5, I'm taking that in favor of the Bengals. No doubt. So Bengals are my choice for that first game there. Next game, we have the Patriots and the Bills. Bills are current favorites at -205 on the money line. If I had to pick a team right now, honestly, this one's kind of a toss-up. I think this is going to be the game it's going to be a close one. The Patriots kind of had the Bills number at the beginning of the season. The Bills have really stepped it up as of late. So I'm pretty split on this one. If I got to go to team, I'm going to go with the Bills. I think Mac Jones is solid, but I don't think he's there yet to really push his team into the second round of the playoffs. However, importantly for the Patriots here, they could easily win this game. This game is a toss-up. I'm taking the Bills because they played better lately, and that's pretty much why. That being said, Mac Jones, I think, in my opinion, he's kind of won me over for the Patriots spot. I think he's good enough that, where he is right now, and then if he gets better into the future, that he can lead this team to deep playoff runs and possible Super Bowl under the coaching of Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is the reason for that. Not necessarily Mac Jones, but this team can go far, with the coaching that Bill Belichick has. So don't be surprised there's an upset here. If I got to pick a team, I'm going with the Bills. Next game here, we have the Eagles and the Buccaneers. Interesting game here. Buccaneers are a -370 favorite. That being said, I totally agree with that. I think Buccaneers are going to sweep this one pretty easily. 10 to 15-point win, probably in that range. Eagles have the best rushing offense in the league. Buccaneers have the best passing offense in the league. However, defense is all the difference here. Buccaneers definitely have a better defense than the Eagles. As obviously as well as a better passing game. Don't think this one's going to be close. Buccaneers should win this one pretty handily. Next game, which is going to be another primetime game of the week, we have the 49ers and the Cowboys. 49ers are +140, and then you have Cowboys favored at -166. I think this one's less of a toss-up than the Patriots-Bills. I'm taking the Cowboys here all day. As good as the 49ers can be at times, I don't think they're good enough to really get over the hump here. They're going to rely too heavily on that running game. The Cowboys are going to shut it out. They have a pretty talented linebacker core, obviously. Micah Parsons, Van Der Esch, et cetera, et cetera. Trayvon Diggs has been solid. I think they're going to have the defense necessary to shut out the 49ers running game. And then defensively, I don't think they'll be able to keep up with the Cowboys here. Right now, the Cowboys are a -3 favorite. I'd probably take that. I'm picking the Cowboys all day here. They're going to take this game. Going into the latter half of the games, we have the Steelers and the Chiefs. This one's pretty obvious. Chiefs are going to blow them out, I think, by a significant portion. Right now, it's a 12.5 spread. Could be more. It could be a 30, 40-point game if the Chiefs really come out and all cylinders really fire. So don't be surprised if that happens. Chiefs are a -700 favorite. I'm taking them all day. Chiefs for sure. And then the final game of the week, this one's going to be a pretty good one. Cardinals-Rams. Rams are a favorite at -200. I'm going Rams here. So the 4-point spread, I think this could be a closer game. I really don't know where this game's going to end up. I just think the Rams are a better team. Cardinals started off really hot at the beginning of the year, and they've kind of fallen apart as of late. I think they finished the season with 3-6 or something like that. I forget what they finished with. Might have been better than that. Might have been like a 4-5 over the last couple games. But again, they started off 8-0. So I think the Rams have the talent to really beat this game, to really win this game pretty handedly if they come out firing on all cylinders. Again, Odell's been great. And come playoff time, he's going to be really clutch for them. Cooper Kupp has been fantastic. Sonny Michel's really stepped up in their running back position. Matt Stafford's been solid. Defense has been fantastic. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. Rams just went ahead and signed. I can't remember I think they lost a safety last week or something, the injury. They went ahead and signed Eric Weddle out of retirement, who should be a nice fill-in. He knows the system more or less. Should be able to fill in kind of nicely, a little bit more depth there. So the Rams are definitely a heavy possibility, I think, to win this. I think they're definitely going to win this game. I think if I had to pick a dark horse Super Bowl team, I'm going with the Rams. Obviously, I think the Packers are favorites right now. If I had to pick a dark horse team, I think Rams are my dark horse team. So if you're going to pick a team to bet on, you're looking for, plus X amount of odds, I'm going with the Rams. That being said, that pretty much wraps up my predictions, wraps up my coverage for the week, as well as wraps up my just everything. I'm glad to be back, guys. I know it's been a little bit of we've been gone for a little bit, but that being said, hopefully Max comes back next week. We will to analyze how the wild card games went, as well as maybe talk a little bit about draft picks too, because I think it's going to be interesting to see where guys fall. Because I know New York Giants have the 5th and 7th. Jaguars go ahead and get back the first overall pick. Maybe we'll do it later. We'll see where that falls in terms of our time schedule, but should be a great week of football. Other than that, see you guys around next time.